If you had been following football during the 2000s, there was an unbelievable air of magic around the game. You had global superstars like Ronaldinho, Luis Figo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, Kaká, Seedorf, Makelele, Thierry Henry, Zinedine Zidane, Roberto Carlos, Fabio Cannavaro, and so many others. But these were players that had been forgotten in the late 90s for most of them, dominated the early 2000s, and were now fading ever so slightly. Year after year, we are accustomed to seeing truly magical moments in the game, from Roberto Carlos's ridiculous banana free kick to Zidane's dominant performance in the 2006 World Cup quarter-finals. Each of the world's best teams were littered with players capable of turning the match on its head, with moments of sheer individual brilliance. This video isn't going to be about the magic of the 2000s though. It's about the nation of Brazil and the slow decay of their footballing dreams following the extraordinary highs of the 2002 World Cup. In the subsequent two World Cups, however, despite having players like Kaká, Ronaldinho and Juninho at the peak of their powers in 2006, Brazil just could not make it past the quarter-finals. And there was a fear among the Brazilian fan base that the new players coming from Brazil just weren't good enough. After witnessing the greatest Brazilian team since the Pelé era utterly dominate the 2002 World Cup and then dominate European football with their local clubs, Brazilian football fans were rightly excited for the future. But fast forward to 2010 and the extraordinary decline of players like Ronaldinho and Kaká had everyone sweating. In came a starry-eyed 17-year-old wonder kid with a mohawk and a knack for the ridiculous, Neymar da Silva Santos Jr. Hi guys, and welcome to Football Talk, where we've been talking about honestly everything and anything related to football from Europe's top 5 leagues. Today we're going to be doing something interesting. We'll be looking back at how many of us had initially looked at Neymar way back in 2010 and whether he's lived up to those expectations or not. Remember, if you like the content we're making for you all, please do remember to like and subscribe so we can help the channel grow and I can finally afford to feed my kids who are starving in the corner as we speak. Also, a random football fact for our viewers, Jose Mourinho once went 9 whole years without losing a single league game at home. Anyways, back to the video. Neymar Jr. is arguably the first YouTube superstar in football. Clips of a mohawk diminutive winger from Brazil were all over social media when he was still in Brazil. Clips of his outrageous skills and flicks dazzled the footballing world, even before he made his move to Europe. His most iconic game in a Santos shirt was one against Flamengo, where he lost to Ronaldinho. Neymar managed to score 2 goals, including one that would go on to win the Puskas Award that year. A goal where he started near the halfway line, glided past many players, dribbled in tight spots, and twice it looked like he'd lost control of the ball, only to find it back at his feet again before he finished the move that he had started. It was only through the inspired brilliance of Ronaldinho, who would go on to score a hat-trick, that Flamengo persevered. But by the end of the game, the whole world knew about Neymar and were eagerly anticipating his arrival on the biggest stages in world football. There are more notable achievements that had him hyped in Brazil before he arrived in Barcelona as a 21-year-old, such as his back-to-back league titles in Brazil, a Copa do Brazil and the 2011 Copa Libertadores, and for context, Santos hadn't won the Copa Libertadores since 1963. Neymar also won the South American Footballer of the Year in 2011 and 2012. And this was before he made the jump to the most competitive leagues in world football. Even when he was playing in Brazil, there was a sense that he was getting too big for the Brazilian league, even as a teenager. He had big ambitions and wanted to be the best player in the world. Neymar is young though, and I can't explain how special he'll become. In the next 2 or 3 seasons, he will become the best player, Ronaldinho. As a youngster, Neymar was touted as the second coming of Ronaldinho, a player with the flair and skills to dazzle audiences. One who would keep the Samba spirit alive and carry on the torch of the 2002 world-class Brazilian squad. In this video, we're going to be doing 2 things. Analysing whether Neymar lived up to the early hype that surrounded him, and secondly, is he really a flop that the world has started labelling him? In 2013, Neymar finally made the move to Barcelona and linked up with Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez to form 1/3 of the greatest attacking trio ever seen in football. And at Barcelona, Neymar truly exploded as a footballer. In his first season, he managed an impressive 14 goals and 15 assists, the year he was still settling in with his new teammates. In the 2014-15 season, however, Barcelona would go on to complete the treble, becoming the first team in history to achieve the treble twice. This season, Neymar would score 39 goals and get 10 assists, finishing as the top scorer in the Champions League, tied with Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. He was also famous for scoring crucial goals, especially in the knockout stages, finding the net in the Champions League final against Juventus, in both semi-final legs against Bayern, and also against Athletic Bilbao in the Copa del Rey final, to cement his status as one of the greatest forwards of the game. This year, MSN would go on to score 121 goals, becoming the most prolific attacking trident in Spanish football history. The next season would be even more incredible for the Brazilian magician, and keep in mind he was only 24 this season. He managed another incredible 31 goals and 28 assists in all competitions, a total of 59 direct goal involvements, as Barcelona would go on to secure a second domestic double in consecutive seasons. MSN would go on to become the most potent attacking trident in footballing history by scoring 131 goals between them. At Barcelona, Neymar won the Copa del Rey thrice, the La Liga twice, the Spanish Super Cup twice, the Champions League, the Club World Cup, the Catalan Super Cup, the Catalonian Cup, and the European Super Cup. And even ignoring his incredible performances for the Barcelona team and looking at his performances for Brazil around the same time, left many fans around the world recognizing his immense talent. Neymar helped Brazil win the Confederations Cup in 2013, defeating an imperious Spanish football team 3-0 in the final. And Neymar's incredible performances saw him win the Golden Ball for his efforts. At the 2014 World Cup, that Neymar was leading Brazil, if football fans were to look past the demolition job that Germany put them through in the semi-final and remember what actually happened that year, then they would remember the terrifying tackle that had left Neymar almost paralyzed for life. Up until the semi-final, Neymar had been leading Brazil from the front, scoring an incredible 4 goals and getting 1 assist, and was shortlisted for the Golden Ball award. He would eventually get a bronze boot for being the 3rd highest goal scorer at the World Cup and be named in the World Cup All-Star 11. But let us not forget, had he been present in the game against Germany, we might have seen a different final. Losing your team captain to a potentially career-threatening broken spine is harrowing enough on its own. But then to play a dominant Germany just days after could take a serious mental toll on your team. Especially when an entire nation, crippled by poverty and street violence, looks to its national team as literal gods that bring joy to millions. The pressure of having to perform in front of such a fan base after losing the main star of your team simply cannot be understated. Logically, Messi is better right now, but Neymar is a great talent who will show the world that he will be number 1. Louis Ronaldo. Nevertheless, after that World Cup, Neymar just wasn't the same. Despite his explosive moments for Barcelona and his utterly dominant displays, as the fixtures would pile up, Neymar would become more susceptible to injuries. He was not helped by the fact that he was also the most fouled player in the world for consecutive seasons. He would go on to PSG in 2017 as a 25-year-old, and this is where we feel his reputation truly dipped. It's very easy to judge footballers and accuse them of being money grabbers because they choose to make a transfer decision that seems to be primarily motivated by money. Especially when all of us know that if we were in a similar situation, it's very unlikely for us to stick to one club, especially if another is offering us more money. We do that all the time in our daily lives, especially if the difference is significant, and with PSG, it really was significant. Neymar would become the highest paid player in the world at 25, with the world at his feet. But his move to PSG got him the sort of criticism that no other player had gotten, even when they made similar moves. Nobody said the same about Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Edison Cavani, Thiago Silva, Marco Verratti, Marquinhos, Kimpembe, Angel Di Maria, Dani Alves and Kylian Mbappe. All other world-class players also made the move to Paris. In fact, after Neymar's arrival, you had players like Buffon, Messi, Icardi, Keylor Navas, Hakimi and Sergio Ramos all joined in to make Paris even more competitive. Before Neymar's arrival, PSG had lost to Barcelona in the quarter-finals in 2013 on goal difference, to Chelsea in 2014, again on goal difference in the quarter-finals, then to Barcelona in 2015 when Barcelona got their historic treble, and then Manchester City in 2016 by just 1 goal. And honestly, they had Barcelona on the ropes in 2017 after winning the first leg 4-0. And if it wasn't for Neymar's historic performance, PSG would have been knocked out by Barcelona that season. So it wasn't exactly a club that was doing poorly before Neymar signed. The real qualms were his inability to get Paris to win the Champions League. But how much of that is really down to Neymar on his own? Even before ending the video on where Neymar stands today amongst the world's elite footballers, a little bit of context has to be added. Since his move to PSG and his aforementioned injury record, Neymar had been on the receiving end of some of the most horrible tackles in football. Yes, he also dives around a lot, and his flops are truly comical at times. But it's happening because defenders get so frustrated around him. They can't stomach the fact that a player can just magically dribble past them with ease, and always resort to hacking him down as soon as he gets past them. Neymar is perhaps the only player we have actively observed on television dribble past any opponent, get fouled 6 or 7 times a game, and still get yelled at for being a cheat. For context, he's not made more than 22 appearances in the French league in any season since he arrived in 2017. Yes, not more than 22 appearances in a single year. His first season saw him score 19 and assist 13 in 20 appearances. His second saw him score 15 and assist 8 in 17 appearances. His third, 15 appearances, 13 goals and 6 assists. His fourth, 9 goals and 6 assists in 18. Last season, he had the most appearances ever with 22, scoring 13 and assisting 6. Do you see the pattern here? Despite minimal appearances in what is now his 6th season at the club, he's managed to score 77 goals and get 46 assists in 100 games played so far in the Liga. So how fair is it to even judge him as a flop when despite his injuries, he's had more goal contributions than appearances made? You don't choose when to get injured, and his case has been one of missing out on crucial games in the season because of circumstances beyond his control. And now for the final bit. Yes, Neymar didn't win the World Cup, nor did he win the Champions League without Messi. But did he live up to the hype that was around him when he first burst onto the scene? The problem with Neymar is that he was expected to become the heir to Messi and Ronaldo. Gradually, football fans will understand that what Messi and Ronaldo achieved was simply phenomenal. Because we're still seeing them around, we're not really understanding just how impressive they've been for years. They smashed records left and right and redefined what it means to be a world-class player. We've heralded Ronaldinho as one of the greatest to ever play because of his 2 years at Barcelona. Zinedine Zidane is immortalized for his performances in the Champions League and 2 World Cups in 1998 and 2006. Luis Ronaldo was dubbed O Fenomeno because of his extraordinary debut season at Barcelona and his first few years at Inter. No, we're not saying that is all they achieved in their careers, but it was those few moments of sheer brilliance that etched their names in our hearts as some of the greatest to ever play the game. Maradona was utterly brilliant on the ball throughout his career, but it was his performances at the 1986 World Cup where he seemingly single-handedly dragged Argentina to the World Cup win. That is why, when it comes to arguments about players from previous generations, you often hear the quotes that statistics don't necessarily show who the greatest players ever are. But unfortunately for Neymar, his statistics pale in comparison to Messi and Ronaldo, even though he's also been prolific throughout the career. If we only look at his time spent in Europe and compare it also to Ronaldinho since Ronaldinho showed up in Europe at the age of 20, you get a decent picture of how well he's done. In 341 appearances so far for Barcelona and PSG, Neymar has scored a total of 216 goals and gotten 144 assists. Ronaldinho, on the other hand, in 276 appearances for Barcelona, AC Milan and PSG, managed 107 goals and 91 assists. For Brazil, Ronaldinho managed 33 goals in 97 appearances, and Neymar has 74 goals in 119 appearances, and is well on track to beat Pele's tally of 77 goals to become Brazil's all-time leading goalscorer. He might not have led Brazil to World Cup glory as Ronaldinho did, but it would be unfair to say his extraordinary world-class performances year after year are dwarfed by Ronaldinho's 2 brilliant seasons. Neymar has been world-class for a sustained period, and should he continue the way he has started this season, we might be looking at him differently by the time he retires.